Peadar Tóibín to reply.
Yeah, no, it's just to say, Minister. The only reason that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael will refuse to recognise this as a national monument is to leave the door open to development in Moore Street that is not in sympathy with a national monument. That's the only. If you believed that you would never support development on Moore Street that is not in sympathy with a national monument, you would simply declare it as a national monument today. The decision that you're making with your vote is to leave the door open to the destruction of parts of the national monument. And that's the truth, because for ages we have seen excuse after excuse why the establishment of the state won't simply make it a national monument. It's incredible. They will always find a reason. I was told during the government's appeal of the High Court case, oh no, this is not about Moore Street and its sense of a national monument. This is simply about planning issues that will lead to issues right around the country. And at the time I said, OK, let's separate the Moore Street issue out from that potential consequence. And this bill does exactly that. It separates the consequence of the High Court case that the government said it pursued. But the art of politics in Ireland is to say one thing and either do nothing or say one thing and do the opposite. So we have a government and an opposition in Fianna Fáil today saying that they support everything around it being a national monument, but actually refusing to actually make it a national monument. And it's deeply frustrating because there's a cynicism involved in that. Rather than saying, I'm voting against this being a national monument because I don't think it's a national monument. That would be the honest thing to do. And the truth of the matter is here, whether it's housing, healthcare, education, or even the battlefield sites that gave birth to the Republic, there is a strain, an instinct amongst the establishment that says, thou shalt not inhibit private interest in this space. That there's always a deference to the private interest in this state. Now, I believe there should be commercial energy within the state, and a national monument allows for commercial energy, but in sympathy with the objectives of a national monument. And it really is heartbreaking just to witness again another opportunity to finally protect that whole area. I'll ask the Minister, does she think that the National Moore Street battlefield site is a national monument? Minister. But it's an interesting question because it is the central question around where all of this exists. It is. We're not getting into answering the question.
No question and answer.
Because we're already in conversation here.
No provisional question and answer session. We would have announced that at the beginning if it were.
I can give you, I'll send it to you and set out exactly.
Okay, well, I'll ask you then, just not to reply to me now, but to send me a short reply maybe via email to say whether or not you agree or do not agree that the Moore Street, the extent of the battlefield site, is a national monument. Because if you believe it's a national monument, Fianna Fáil believe it's a national monument, and the Independents believe it's a national monument, and Sinn Féin do, let's just make it a national monument. And that's the sad thing. So in other words, people have stood up here today and stood up here and lauded the campaign groups. Now the campaign groups wanted to be called a national monument. It's Irish politics to the core. Saying one thing, putting your arm around a full campaign and doing the opposite. Now, there's no reason why commercial development can't happen on that particular site in sympathy with it being a national monument. I want commercial development to happen on that site because that site will remain derelict, because if commercial development doesn't do it, by God, the state's not going to do it. As Jerry Adams said, 100 years have gone past and the state hasn't done it. And interestingly enough, you talk about the inadequacy of the particular bill. Inadequacy is a definition of what Moore Street is today. How can you not... The dereliction, the sterile nature of a full quarter of our city, capital city, which is adjacent to the capital street. It is in dereliction. It's been used for alcohol and drug consumption. People are defecating on that street next to traders who are trying to eke a living. And the minister's hands are warm because she's sitting on them. And the minister called my bill inadequate. There should be a shame amongst the government with regards walking next into anywhere near Moore Street and the state that Moore Street is in. Shame should mean that there's a response, but inertia is the response, because the rule in this country is if there's private interest in it, healthcare or anything else, housing, we must defer to that. And I would really ask the Minister. Now, the forum has been functioning, and as many people have indicated, that the forum has hit a rocky stage in the last while. And the owners have met with us maybe twice. And I've been pushing hard for the owners of that land to meet with us. And I'm not a purist with regards to the outcomes here. I want a reasonable compromise. I don't want a situation where people are arguing about the smallest, tiniest details forever and a day. I want a result in there. But the way that you created a result, Minister, is you set the parameters in which the result can function. And the national monument status is the parameters. Now, Cuív has lifted up that particular document. That document is gathering dust. When I was asked first to sit on this forum, I was extremely cautious about sitting in the forum, because my instinct was that the government wanted to get the issue of Moore Street and kick it to touch politically. And they figured by drawing in all the people that we could create a talking shop that would go on forever and a day on this. But there is deep frustration, Minister, with regards to this. And I guarantee you that unless the government grabs this by the scruff of the neck, we're going to be here in a number of years talking the same issue here. So, listen, the government and the opposition and the Fianna Fáil opposition have made a deal, have agreed what they're going to do on this. It's not new. This is so-called new politics. It's a pity. We will go back to the forum. We'll do our best to resolve the issue there. But the issue of Moore Street being a national forum will not be dropped. Will not be. It will not be. I will not, and a large section of the people on that forum will not accept any development for Moore Street that is not part of its being a national forum. Anything that's contrary to it not being a national forum will not be accepted. No. But see, if you all agree to that, you would put your vote where your mouth is. Unfortunately, you're refusing to actually take the vote step, which would simply, as I said earlier, make that document a reality. And that's the pity about it. Anyway, Gurmila Mágat, a Chaithirlik.
Thank you, Deputy.